Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is noun phrase 177. The noun phrase today is conventional wisdom. Okay, let's take a look at the note here. If someone says something is conventional wisdom, he or she is stating this is the view or belief that most people seem to have and often act on. It could be used to simply state this, state this as kind of a fact. But often it is used to contradict something, or perhaps say it is a myth. So a lot of times people say, well, this is the conventional wisdom, but maybe this is not correct, maybe this is not true, maybe this is only a myth. So a lot of times we hear it used that way as well. Let's continue. So remember, when something is conventional wisdom, it may really be true, but there is some questions that maybe the person who's saying it may also think that it's not really true, even though that's what most people think or what most people believe. All right, let's continue. The origin and credit of coining this term is mostly given to John Kenneth Galbraith in his book called Affluent Society. Affluent, like wealthy or, maybe higher level, something like that. Published in 1958. The book described economic ideas that were familiar, often assumed to be true, and accepted by most people. In his book, he stressed conventional wisdom, although practical, because we do need a certain amount. No conventional wisdom would probably also be a problem too. But although it's practical, sometimes got in the way and caused much resistance to anything that opposed it, even when some new ideas could clearly put into question former ideas, where you might start to doubt some of the former ideas. So in some ways he was saying, conventional wisdom sometimes could be a problem. Let's continue. Before the term conventional wisdom became dominant, or the main one, to be used like this or to mean this, people used to say commonplace knowledge. So commonplace knowledge was the old term for conventional wisdom. We don't really hear that much anymore. We mostly hear conventional wisdom now. Okay. To refer to the same idea. The reason most people are resistant is that they fear being labeled as crazy or foolish to go against it, to go against conventional wisdom. So that's why there's usually resistance. Even when you could show them proof that seems logical, that maybe, this old idea might not be correct, some people don't really want to jump so quickly because, this is what they've always been told, or this is what they think most people believe. And they're worried that if they repeated the same thing, some people might think they're crazy, or they don't know what they're talking about, or make fun of them. So they're worried about that. So for that reason, the people are often resistant. All right, let's continue. All right, we got a couple of examples here. In the 1950s, it was conventional wisdom, even among most doctors, to claim smoking was not harmful to one's health. That almost seems impossible to believe right now, but I do remember seeing on the internet, on YouTube, I seen the old commercials in black and white where doctors are actually saying, smoking is good for you. They actually had some doctors advertising the cigarette itself. I remember that even Camel, which is probably one of the most carcinogenic ones today, they were advertising that, saying that, it was actually good for you. So that's why sometimes I often tell students, don't be surprised in the future if some things doctors say today are one way, in the future they change their mind. We will find some evidence, or the conventional wisdom may be totally opposite. You could go back in history and find a number of examples of the same thing. All right, let's look at number 2. At one time, it was conventional wisdom that salt in one's diet was bad. Okay. Recent evidence proves too little salt is far worse. Yeah, well, to be honest, in most cases, we don't really worry about salt because there's so many preservatives in food. The average person usually gets enough salt. Sometimes they worry that they may get too much salt. However, a lot of people don't realize that, salt is very, very important to the human body. If you didn't have it, it would be a really big problem. Sometimes I'll often ask students, like what's the most important things? Usually that the body needs. Usually number one, students always say water, but actually water is number two. Number one is air. And when you think about it, that makes perfect sense because you can't survive very long without air. So air is number one. Water is number two, but actually salt is number three. So salt is very important to the human body. But at one time, it's conventional wisdom, they told you, you should try to avoid all the salt in your diet. No, too little salt. If you really cut all salt out, that would be a bigger problem. All right, and here's just some other examples, whether you agree with them or not, of what some people might call conventional wisdom. All right, okay. Politicians lie. All right, I might agree with that one. They do lie a lot. I think most people agree that politicians lie. Although they say you should be careful of this one because sometimes they actually tell the truth. But they lie so much that you really don't know when they're telling the truth. But that would be conventional wisdom. So again, sometimes you might agree with it. Sometimes you think it is right. Maybe sometimes it is conventional wisdom. Okay, good. The courts protect people from injustice. Well, we like to think so. And hopefully, in most cases, this is true. But we do know that there's quite a few people that were falsely accused and went to jail. A lot of them, we found out a lot of them, especially when DNA evidence became available, and many people were actually freed that it was proven that they were falsely accused of a crime too. So even though they protect you, and then sometimes people that really commit terrible crimes, but they're very powerful, they don't get punished. So, but that's the idea that, we always say. We'd like to believe it's true, but maybe not always. Let's continue. The textbook is always right. Yeah, like the books you have in school. Not always. Hopefully most of the time they are, but yeah, there's definitely some mistakes in textbooks. So, but anyway, this would be under conventional wisdom. Everyone should save money for retirement. I think that's probably good advice. Everyone probably should save some money for retirement. You never know how you're going to end up. Okay. So anyway, these are just some of the typical examples. Okay. Anyway, I hope you got it. I hope it's clear. I hope it's food for thought, makes you think. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.